The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Earhart here with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy days to join us. I think you're going to find our presentation today very, very timely and very informative, and I'm really excited about it. We are going to have an in-depth look at the Performance Elite, one of the top accumulating series in the industry, and the take a look at the allocation options that make it a top accumulating product suite. And in order to dive into that, we have VP and our relationship manager from Athene, Mr. Mac Campbell, with us. Mac, can you hear me?
I can, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. We know it's a really busy time at Athene, so we really do appreciate you carving out some time for us. Before I hand it over to Mac, I want to go through a few housekeeping items and a few introductory slides, and then we'll get it over to the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. And I'm going to start with housekeeping items. Probably the most important thing you'll hear out of my mouth today is in the top right-hand corner of your screen. That's our phone number here at IAMS, 800-255-5055. If there is anything that we can do to help you in the life, annuity, or assets under management market spaces, please do not hesitate to give us a call. We'd love the opportunity to be talking with you and earning your business here at IAMS. Secondly, polling questions. I'm going to launch 2 or 3 polls throughout the presentation today. If you would take the time to just click yes or no on those polling questions, we certainly do appreciate everyone's participation. And then the final housekeeping item are questions. We're going to take, 30, 45 minutes, an hour, however long it does take today to get you some great information, but it is a pretty condensed time frame. So I'm sure that will generate questions from you, and we certainly want those questions. I know Mac wants those questions. He and Athene, the entire culture there, do a great job of being as transparent as possible. So feel free to use the questions box. Type in any questions you have. Towards the end of the session, we'll do the best we can to get those answered for you. And yeah, so we appreciate it. We want this to be interactive. Please take advantage of that. Moving on to some introductory slides, our business builders programs. One thing that I want to point out is the referred producer program. Our business here on the wholesale side of the industry is so similar to yours there in the field, in that one of the best leads we're ever going to get is a referral from our valued clients, or you, our valued producers. So we want to make it worth your while to refer individuals over to us. How the program is structured is when you refer a licensed agent over and they pick up any contract with IAMS, we're going to send you a $50 thank you check. Now, where the real money comes in is as your referred producer writes business, you'll receive a 20 basis point override on that business. Steve Murray and Charles Hiring, our ownership team, signs those checks, and they sign them at least quarterly. And I can tell you right now, I see checks for thousands and thousands of dollars get signed every quarter. So it can be very, very lucrative for you and hopefully beneficial for your referral. So if there's an individual out there that you think would benefit from doing business with us here at IAMS or taking advantage of our services, please feel free to type their name into the questions box, email me any of their contact information, or when I call to follow up, let me know who they are. We'll do the best we can to get them recruited over here at IAMS and hopefully get you on your way to earning some referred producer dollars. New producer builders. So for those of you who are new to us here at Insurance Agency Marketing Services, or if this is your first introduction to us, you are eligible for the new producer builder program. This is based on production within your first 180 days of being licensed. And as you can see, there's 3 great levels where you can cash in with great options at each level: cash rewards, business building tools, personal perks, a lot of great stuff available to you there. If you'd like more details on the program, or if you want to know where you stand, or possibly have a conversation about what I can be doing to help you make the next step up and get to that higher level, please let me know. Love that conversation. Back office support. This is the heart of who we are here at IAMS, and that subheadline there on the screen, helping you to work smarter, not harder. That's who we are. So the IAMS business model here is all about helping your business be more efficient. And we do that with great business building tools and resources. If you go to imsinc.com, you can get a better overview of that. I won't take a ton of time to go through that right now, but we've got a ton of business building tools, resources available for you to help you brand yourself and get in front of more prospects. Case design assistance, that's going to be me and my team. What we do here, we're here to help you with case design, and we can do full-fledged case design through all three of the major entities of IMS to really give you a holistic approach to your clients, whether it's incorporating assets under management with life insurance and annuities or any variation of that. We're here to help you with that case design. Forms at your fingertips, two ways to get forms at your fingertips. I mentioned imsinc.com earlier, also 800-255-5055. You use your fingers, we will have forms in your inbox almost instantaneously. Submission to commission support. This is an area where I will put my put my wallet on the table, put my money where my mouth is, and say we're better at this than anybody else in the industry. Amber Williams and her team of new business managers do such a good job of helping you to scrub the app and previewing the application so that when it is submitted, it is in good order, and then tracking that application through the issuance process for you to make sure you get commissioned as quickly as possible. We call that our submission to commission support. And I would tell you, if you've never given us a try, or if you're not used to working with an IMO, submit one piece of business through our office and just see how much ease it creates in your world. We don't ask you to do very much. You don't have to call and check on it. We're doing that on your behalf. Life and annuity quotes. This is really my baby, and it ties in with case design. My team on the annuity side, Mark's team on the life side, we understand that illustrations and quotes are a big part of your presentation process. So our commitment to you is same day quotes. You call us, you will speak to a live person here at IMS. We don't have a phone tree. We don't have voicemail. We're going to get the information you need, possibly make some suggestions on positioning of that quote, and get it out to you the same day. There is no leave a voicemail, wait for somebody to call you back, then possibly email it to you 2 or 3 days later. We want it in your inbox. The faster that we do that, the quicker you can make the presentation. Hopefully, the quicker you can submit business and be commissioned. So that's a big deal around here. Top sales expertise and coaching. You'll hear me talk about this a little bit here on the next slide or two. We do have 4 or 5 sales coaches throughout the country that are available to you to help you really grow your business, take that next step, and certainly we will make them available to you. And then paperless contracting. This is such a huge thing. We all know the pain of filling out new licensing paperwork for each carrier. We're going to get rid of that pain for you. We're on the Efficient Forms platform. We're going to ask you to fill out licensing one time, and then anytime you want to add on a new carrier, all we have to do is click a button on your behalf and we get it done for you. So a great way to save time there. Creative team, I mentioned them a little bit earlier. Tasia and her entire team do such a good job over on creative, and they are in-house here at IMS. Turnkey solutions, customizable print products, customizable web or emailable products available for you. Agency solutions. If you haven't created a logo and a brand for you and your company, I tell you, let's do that. Let's get you some name recognition out there, even if it's just the start of what you're doing. It's a great thing. We can do that for you. Andrew, our creative designer here, is really good. So please take advantage of that. And then, kind of the hot button issue in marketing, digital solutions right now. We can help you with a website, with marketing strategies, social media, email marketing, online newsletters, getting your SEO up. We can help with all of that. So if you'd like to chat with the creative team, just give us a call, ask for IMS Creative. We'll get you in there. We'll get you talking to somebody that can really help you brand and grow your business. The website, I mentioned it a few times, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on here, but imsinc.com, got a lot of great stuff on there. Sales resource library, annuity quote engine, life quote engine, forms at your fingertips. Please, if you haven't gone out and registered at imsinc.com, do so today. I think you'll find a lot of value there. Retirement Analyzer. This is a really, really great tool for taking a look at your clients and prospects' current financial state. And the reason why I like this tool so much and we utilize this tool so much is not only is it going to help you to understand where your client sits and help them to understand where your client sits, or where they sit with their money. What you can do is input the suggestions you're making and show them exactly how much longer their money will last in retirement because they're choosing to do business with you. So it will help you close more sales as well. Marcus Solar in our office and on my team is our point man on Retirement Analyzer. So if you'd like to know more about how it works or what it is, we do have a free trial we can sign you up for. To get you 90 days, I believe, access at no fee or no production requirement. So give Marcus a call. He'd love to show you how it works and see if it's something you'd like to incorporate into your business practice. IMS Wealth Management. As I talk about IMS Wealth Management here, I'm going to launch our first poll of the day. And basically what I'm going to ask you here is if you have interest in learning more about IMS Wealth. And IMS Wealth we launched a little over a year ago now, had a ton of success with it as far as just sheer production, bringing assets under management. But what I tell you is we've had a lot of success taking our core advisor, the insurance-based advisor, helping them pass the 65. So if you think it's time for you to take the next step in your practice and incorporate assets under management, we can help you take the 65, pass the 65, and then give you a great home as well. Mike Hansen, our onboarding specialist over there, does a great job with helping you through the study process. We've got some great partners for studying for the exam. So certainly click yes if that's of interest to you. Now, if you are someone that is an IAR and already has passed the 65, I want you to click yes and have Mike or Charles give you a call. I think you'll be really impressed with the platform that we've put together, the fee structure that we have, and the technology that comes because of that fee. We've seen a lot of established advisors move over to us because the value proposition is truly there for both them and their clients. So that being said, we're really excited about IMS Wealth Management. We're expecting to have a banner year here this year with our sales projections, so we'd love for you to be a part of that. If you haven't taken the time to click yes or no in the polling question right now, certainly I would appreciate your participation before we close it down. Thank you, everyone. Life and Annuity Academy. And I hate to launch back-to-back polls, but I'm going to do it here. And I'm really excited about this polling question because we have our first academy coming up here pretty quickly in the at the end of March, the last 3 days of March. We will be, and actually it's very timely we're doing this, we will be over in West Des Moines, Iowa, utilizing and partnering with Athene at their home office. So we're very excited about that. Now, our life and annuity academies aren't just some product roadshow or sales training. It's a true marketing experience. We want to show you exactly what it is we do here at IMS to help you be so successful. So what you're going to do, or what you'll see, is you'll meet myself, you'll meet Mark Raymakers, who's the head of the life team. You'll meet Charles R. Hiring, who's the head of the RIA. Amber Williams, the head of our new business team. Tasia Peterson, the head of our creative team. We'll all be there to show you what our departments do here inside of IMS and how we help our advisors increase their business flow and the tools that are available. You'll also meet our ownership group, Steve Murray and Charles Hiring. They run our day-to-day operations here. They are the decision makers. So I can tell you they're going to be there to help you and get to know you and make sure that we are what do I want to say? We are tailoring your experience here so that you maximize your experience at IMS. Now, what I think is the most beneficial about our life and annuity academies is we're going to bring in at least 4 of our sales coaches from throughout the country. So in order to be a sales coach here at IMES, not only do you have to talk the talk, but you also have to walk the walk. And what I mean by that is all the individuals you will see present to you are not only sales coaches, but they are top producers first and foremost. They're the upper 1% of commission earners in our industry. And what these individuals will do is take the time to show you what they do in their daily practice that has made them so successful, and give you the ability to take that home with you and implement it in your own practice. So very, very valuable information there. Now, I'd be amiss if I didn't ask Mac to chime in here, because Athene and Mac specifically have been great partners to us over the years, partnered with us on many academies, and they do such a good job. So Mac, anything you'd like to add about the upcoming Life and Annuity Academy?
Yeah, sure, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this topic. Yeah, and to your point, we've been very fortunate to have partnered with you guys on several of these in the past, and looking forward to the one here in a few months. And I guess the bottom line I'd say for everybody on the phone here is, if you haven't been to one, please contact IMES and see if you could attend one of their upcoming ones, and ideally the one that we're co-hosting with them. You know, there's a lot of great content. Certainly, from your perspective, you get a good look at the carriers that are involved, and of course, IMES as an IMO, you get to kick the tires on both of those entities. I think more importantly than that, or I think just as important as that from your perspective, is, you know, your ability to hear from other successful producers, certainly the sales coaches that Scott mentioned, but then also from other attendees. You know, I've been in this business for over 20 years, and I've traveled all over the country. And the neat thing about our business is that there isn't just one way to succeed. You know, you may do it one way in your neck of the woods that's totally different than someone else across the country. And we bring all these great folks together in a great environment and share ideas. And I think, you know, there's just as much collaboration and knowledge sharing happening at the sort of downtime, if you will, you know, dinners, drinks, breaks, as there are on the actual agenda. So again, if you haven't been to one yet, I'd strongly urge you to consider going to one in the future. So Scott, I'll turn it back over to you.
Hey, thank you, Mac. As always, I appreciate the partnership and the kind words. That being said, if you haven't taken the time to click yes or no on the polling question, if you would please do so. Certainly, we would appreciate that. All right, I'm going to skip over that bad boy there, and that brings me to the end of the introductory slides. So what I'm going to do is give control over to Mac, and we'll get into the presentation.
Great. And if you would, Scott, if you could just verify you can hear me okay and you can see the slides.
Yep, I can hear you and we can see them, big dog.
Great. All right. Well, listen, Scott, thanks for the setup. Again, great job as usual, and also the introduction there. I want to thank you for the partnership and, again, allowing me to co-host this with you. And thank you to everyone on the phone listening here or on the web listening. You know, again, you've got valuable time, and we'll take about the next 20, 25 minutes and kind of step through a couple different ideas, as Scott mentioned, sort of focusing around our Performance Elite product. But, you know, before I get into that, I just kind of want to give you some of our results, you know, that we're proud of, and really we owe them a lot to all you on the phone that contributed to that success. You know, we finished 17 as the #2 writer of indexed annuities in our industry. And when you take out, or if you remove the broker-dealer only channel that we know Allianz plays in, we're actually #1 in the IMO space. And again, huge thanks to you on the phone that helped us get there. Ultimately, without you, there are no sales. So we really appreciate what you do for us. And hopefully we can, you know, give you another idea here today, helping to return the favor there. So one of the products that achieved tremendous results last year, actually we sold over $1 billion, and it is the Performance Elite. You know, it's been on our shelf for a couple of years now. Many of you that if you've sold it, you've likely seen it's aptly named. Again, Performance Elite. It's got great performance, great accumulation opportunities, incredible strategies. We'll talk about some of that in a few moments. But I thought today we would take a slightly different approach to the conversation. In fact, an approach that is used by one of the top producers that I work with in my neck of the woods. I'm out of the Boston area. And this individual does sell a fair amount of Performance Elite, and he uses it as sort of a bond alternative. So I thought what we would do is kind of set the stage, talk a little bit about the bond marketplace. What are people looking at when they're in retirement or nearing retirement in terms of their portfolios? And could the Performance Elite be a good alternative? And of course, the answer is I think it is. But why? Why is it a good answer? And we'll kind of share some ideas with you. We will talk a little bit about how the product works, and then ultimately show you how it actually performs. So let's get right into the story. And again, a lot of this isn't necessarily new information, but I think it's great to start simple and start at the beginning to kind of set the stage and get the right perspective for you and then ultimately for your customers. Now, while this presentation isn't client approved, I would be shocked if you guys didn't use some of this language in your fact finding or when you're recommending different annuities or products. But if you don't, feel free to jot some ideas down, and if you get some good ideas from this, by all means use them. This is just simply a pyramid of risk, and we've seen them, graphically depicted different ways. We've seen spectrums, graphs, charts. This happens to be a pyramid, and you can see at the very bottom, I don't think it's 100% riskless, but it's about as riskless as you can get, I say, in this country, and that's cash. Then, of course, as we go up the pyramid, we get into riskier asset classes, but also with higher rewards potentially. We've got bonds, and I would also put fixed annuities and indexed annuities in that category as well. Those aren't listed, but these are more general asset classes. Then, of course, we have mutual funds, and I would put variable annuities in that category. Then, of course, I think depending on where you live or where your clients live, property and equities possibly could be switched, depending on how speculative. If you're on the West Coast, maybe you want to switch those. And at the very top, of course, we have commodities. And the point being here, everyone, is that the higher up that pyramid you go, the more risk your client is taking on. But that might be okay, if they are younger, if they've got a higher risk tolerance, because ultimately taking more risk will typically allow you for more reward, at least the potential for that. But the reality is a lot of folks, they get confused, particularly as they're approaching retirement, all these different asset classes, what's the right mix? Ultimately, the majority of our customers tell us, and we do a lot of polling of our existing clients that you sell annuities to, they're looking for help to maximize income while at the same time minimizing risk. Now, if we stop there, I think we just basically defined, I think, what a fixed indexed annuity could do. But again, let's set the stage a bit more, and we'll get into that in a few moments. So in your practices, some of you might have a UM business. If you don't, that's okay. You likely have run into it. Most clients nearing retirement have some sort of managed portfolio of assets. And typically this is a portfolio of stocks and bonds that is chosen and managed by a professional manager who ultimately makes all those buy and sell decisions. And of course, each managed account has different objectives. Each client is different based on their risk tolerance, their age. And ultimately, a lot of asset allocation needs to happen. What asset classes should the clients be in? How old are they? How does that change what the asset allocation model might look like? And depending on your risk tolerance, and as you grow older, that will change. So there's a lot of moving parts potentially there. And if we look more specifically to bonds, you may have heard that when it comes to investing in equities and bonds, and this is a very general rule of thumb, it's called the rule of 100. And quite simply, however old you are, that's the percentage of equities that should be in your portfolio. You minus your age, and again, that's the number that goes into bonds. So if you're a 65-year-old individual, again, general rule of thumb here, this is not right for everybody, and certainly people have different risk tolerances, but if you have a 65-year-old individual, that means that 65% should be in bonds, and the remaining 35 in equities. So clearly you can see how this works. The older your client gets, the more should be in bonds versus equities. Now again, generally speaking, this is an old rule that's been used for years. You combine this rule with the 4% distribution rule, and then largely you can do your clients some good things. However, I think there's a huge misconception about bonds being kind of low risk, especially today. But also, why are bonds typically considered as sort of the fixed income portion or a fixed income portion in someone's portfolio? I think a lot of folks consider them safer investments than stocks and equities. I think generally that could be true, but not always, however. They provide a yield or some sort of return on the client's portfolio on a consistent basis. They often can provide some non-correlation to an equity portfolio. So in other words, when the equity markets zig, the bonds sometimes zag. So it gives you a nice offset. Historically, bond markets are not as volatile as equity markets. And usually, again, as clients near retirement, their portfolio continues to shift out of equities and into more fixed income vehicles. I think the average investor, the average prospect, the average client likely considers bonds for all these reasons. And they think bonds is a safe or a borderline guaranteed investment. The reality is there's a lot of risk potentially that bonds bring to the table. So let's look at some of the risks. Well, clearly, the easiest one to look at is interest rate risk. But coupled with that, periods of low interest rate, there could be some inflation risk at the table as well. Will the yields even keep up with inflation? There is market risk, as we've seen with bond funds. There's reinvestment risk. We'll skip to the bottom there. Again, as rates change and the bond comes due, are rates advantageous or are they disadvantageous to the client to reinvest at that time? That's a risk. Credit risk. Before 2009, these credit and default risk, I think, they were largely small. But the financial crisis, less than 10 years ago, I think, taught us all that those are real things to consider when looking at bond portfolios. So just by way of perspective, I think these are some companies you likely remember. Enron, I think that's sort of the one everyone remembers most. Lehman Brothers, GM, WorldCom, Chrysler. What do they all have in common? Well, at one time, they were all large cap, blue chip companies, reputable, long track records, highly valued, publicly traded companies, and very high rated bonds. Of course, they all went bankrupt overnight and defaulted, and we all know what happened next. So I don't think bonds are riskless. There's a lot of different ways that risk comes to the table. And ultimately, what is an alternative to that asset class for clients? Now, as an advisor, you likely know all of that information, but you also know that, typically today there's pretty low yields. Interest rates are very low. There's very limited liquidity, at least until you bring it to term. And we do know, again, that they're not guaranteed. But there seems to be a disconnect, I think, with a lot of customers and prospects with how they feel bonds could work for them in retirement and how we know that they might not work as planned. So with that in mind, is there a better way to safely invest a client's money, decreasing risk, while at the time potentially increasing returns, and as we'll see in a few moments, in a potentially dramatic way? So is there a better alternative? If I could show you an alternate asset class that provides the ability to further diversify your portfolio, has true guarantees and safety, uses strategies to minimize downside risk and maximize upside potential, offers upside participation at index that typically outperforms most bonds or bond funds over time, will get you growth plus great liquidity and low or no fees. Would that be of interest to you? And I would venture to say that if you were asked that question to virtually all your prospects or clients, they would likely answer with a resounding yes. So let's kind of, we've set the stage now. We've looked at the bond marketplace. I'm not suggesting the bonds are all bad, but as long as they're framed in the right way, I think they're good for the portfolio. But we know there's risk. Let's look at a better alternative potentially. And we're going to look at Athene's Performance Elite, or in other words, it's a fixed indexed annuity offered by Athene that provides growth plus great liquidity with an underlying guarantee of never losing your principal. So again, this is not your grandmother or your grandfather's annuity from 10, 15 years ago. This is a very client-friendly, producer-friendly product, a great alternative to someone's bond portfolio as well. So we'll talk about a few specifics here. We'll talk about some rates, how they've performed. Ultimately, the Performance Elite brings a couple things to the table, I think better than any other indexed annuity in the marketplace. Now, again, just to kind of reiterate, this is not an income annuity. If you write income annuity sales, fixed indexed annuity sales with income riders, call the folks at IMES, call my sales team. We have another great annuity for you. Here, we're just trying to safely accumulate money for your client. So we've got market-leading crediting rates, as you'll see in a moment. Strong, I think, industry-leading liquidity features if you purchase the enhanced liquidity rider for a small fee. And also be guaranteed downside protection. All of these assets, I think make this a great bond alternative. So this next slide shows you a quick snapshot of the current rates and caps associated with all the different strategies in this annuity across our 7, our 10, and our 15-year version of the product. And we do have a 7, 10, and 15-year version. We also have a version of these that have a huge bonus attached if you want to do that as well. That includes better liquidity that we'll get into in a few moments. But for the purposes of this presentation, because we are looking at bond alternative, we're going to use the shortest duration product we have in this space, and this is the Performance Elite 7. I've highlighted what the current rates are. So if you're a traditional cap rate person, you can see at the very top, right now we have a 4.5% cap on a 7-year product. Now you could actually couple that with a 5% bonus on that 7-year product. So you include a 5% bonus, a cap rate that high, and great liquidity. I think it's one of the best combinations in the business. Further down the line, though, you see a lot of different strategies, many of which are uncapped, and we've highlighted those in bold for you. I mentioned before, this is a great way to potentially diversify someone's portfolio as well, because you've got choices. The client has options and the flexibility to move from one strategy to another or participate in several different strategies at the same time. We've got a BNP strategy that uses lots of different indices, asset classes and economies. We've got a Morningstar strategy that's more dividend focused. And one of our newest strategies is the Janus SocGen Index that basically is more equity driven. In fact, it's the only index in the marketplace that doesn't use bonds or cash. So effectively, you're going to get great growth when the market's up, but this one could be more volatile. But we'll talk about how these things perform in a moment. Notice the participation rates there, and we'll talk about why that's important in a moment. But the point of this slide, everyone, is not for you to memorize what these rates are, more to show you that A, we're competitive, and B, you've got options to show your client. Now, another way we have options here is that the strategies I just mentioned, the uncapped ones, they have both 1 and 2-year designs. And you can see if we look at the SocGen Index on the 1-year strategy, right now that's got a 55% participation rate. The 2-year strategy in the same index build offers 90% participation rates. And we have ways within Athene that you're able to stagger 2 different 2-year strategies, 2 different buckets, to essentially get your client exposure to 2-year pricing and rates every year. Talk to the folks at IMES about that we've got a great client brochure that explains how that works. But clearly there's, as a carrier, pricing these products and strategies, there's advantages for going out longer. If your client can wait 2 years, better rates are possible. And the reason that is because options are typically cheaper for us to purchase. So we pass that along to the clients. So yeah, lots to take in on that slide, but just the takeaway here, I guess, is we've got options and great rates here. Now let's look how these things have illustrated over time. Now these will actually look quite a bit better. We have not factored in to our illustration system yet 2017. We know 2017 was a bang-up year, certainly in the equity marketplace, and I'll share with you some of our returns on these strategies here in a moment. So here we're talking hypotheticals, but again, if we have a indexed annuity that has no shot of us losing our principal, and we're able to average 6.5%, in one case almost 9% over 10 years, that's something I'm willing to take a look at for sure. A safe way to grow money. You'd be hard pressed to perform that well in a variable risk type investment, let alone one that you never lose money. So while it's, I think, easy to potentially show something that illustrates really well, what I'd like to do on this next slide is actually show you how they've performed in actual numbers. Now, I made some assumptions here, everyone, so I want you to be aware of them. We're assuming here, the calendar year 2017 has come to a close, so we have an actual year of growth. And in some of these strategies, we actually have 2 years of growth. If we take a customer with $100,000, had they purchased the annuity in January of 17, or in the case of the 2-year strategy, January of 16, we've got full 2 years of data to report back. You can see that with the Performance Elite 7 cap strategy, again, the cap is 4.5%. I actually chose the liquidity rider here, so the client gets a 5% bonus out of the gate as well. After the first year, they're at 109. After the second year, they'd be at 115. Not bad, up $100,000 investment, if you will, or deposit with a fixed annuity. That's the capped. Let's look at the uncapped strategies and show you where I think the real sizzle lies here and the opportunity. The BNP, Similar after 1 year, but after 2 years, they're at 120, so quite a bit better. The SocGen, after 1 year, they would have earned over $20,000. In year two, $27,000. Off a $100,000 deposit, $27,000 of growth in just 2 years. I think that's incredible to talk about. Now, just to give you some perspective, the S&P 500, the index itself, did roughly 20% return last calendar year. Our newest index, the Janus SocGen, did 30. So I want to go back a slide or two here. And when I first told you the 1 year Janus participation rate was only 55%, you likely thought, well, gee, that doesn't sound that high. I'm not sure I can tell that to a customer. You know, there's maybe another index in the marketplace that's got 120, 140%. But I would ask you, what is it participating in? Now, I just told you that that index performed 30% last year. Your client's getting 55% of that. Said another way, if you look at the S&P gain of 20, your client earned 80% of the S&P growth last year with zero risk. I think that's a powerful story. Now, again, that's not going to always replicate itself, but what I hope to show you here is that when the market's up, we've got strategies that will perform for your customers. In fact, last year, there was 7 indices that outperformed the S&P 500, and Athene owned 3 of them. So we talked about performance. We talked a little bit about some of the bonus opportunities. And then again, another thing that we should discuss when we're looking at bond alternatives is liquidity. Because again, bonds aren't that liquid potentially, particularly during their terms. So if the client chooses the Performance Elite Plus version of the product, on the 7-year chassis, they're going to get a 5% bonus. On the 10-year, they get a 9% bonus. And on the 15-year, they get a 12% bonus. Again, the highest bonuses in the industry. In addition to that, they're going to get enhanced liquidity. So they get 10% free available day one. And then after the 4th year, it's 100% return of premium. Try that with a bond. So effectively, after 4 years, if things change in the client's life, or if they're not liking what they see, which I highly will doubt in this instance, you've got the sleep at night feature available to them. They can actually get what they put in, at least back without charge to them and without charge to you. In addition, if they don't take a withdrawal in any given year, next year, they have the ability to take 20% free. So there's a ton of liquidity built into this product. When I just talked about the great performance we've seen, how well they illustrate, and the great bonus possibilities, I would venture to say you won't find another accumulation annuity in the market today that does all 3 things as well as this does, as safely as it can do it. So again, just a quick comparison. If we look at bonds, we've got effectively unlimited downside depending on the markets and if there is a default risk like we saw several years ago. With the Performance Elite, we know there's no downside. Your principal is protected, and in fact, you can get it all back after 4 years if the client needs to. With bonds, there is limited upside, very interest rate sensitive. There's uncapped potential with Performance Elite. We've got interest rate risk with bonds. We're a little interest rate sensitive, I think, is ultimately fixed annuities like these. We adjust caps and rates based on what interest rates are doing. But rates are at all-time lows, which is not great for bonds. But if I can show you rates like I've showed you today, with interest rates as low as they are, imagine what these things could be when rates eventually do go up. So we love where we're positioned, and we think this is a great alternative to someone's bond portfolio. So again, think about using the PE as a better bond alternative to help your clients lower risk, increase return, meet or exceed their liquidity needs, and then again, offer guarantees that frankly bonds just can't match. So with that, let's talk about educating you more if you need it. Talk to the great folks at IAMS and Scott and his team. Call my team. Here's just some quick specs on the 7-year product, the surrender charges. You can see the bonus there at 5%. Now, there are some state variations. Chances are, if you're selling in one of those states, you know who you are: California, Jersey, my state of Massachusetts, for instance, Oregon, PA, the typical offenders. The rates are the same. What you'll see that's a little different are the surrender charges and the bonus, but everything else is basically the same. So Scott, with that, I'll turn it back over to you. That's the prepared comments that I have for everyone today, but I'd love to answer any questions, or I could recover some information. I know we went through a lot, so I'll turn it to you.
Sure, Mac. I appreciate you, as always, taking the time, and I can't say enough how refreshing it is to work with a company like Athene that is, willing to pull back the curtain and show the inner workings on and bring sales ideas to the table. So we do appreciate that. Everyone on the call, I'm sure, appreciates it as well. That being said, before we get into questions, I want to launch our final poll of the day. And what I'm going to ask you is if you'd like more information about contracting with Athene. If you saw something in Mac's presentation today that you think you could utilize in your practice, click yes. We'll get you out some product information on the PE, as well as information on how easily you can license with Athene and take advantage. One thing that I will say is if you clicked yes on the Life and Annuity Academy poll, and you are not licensed with Athene, click yes here. Our baseline requirement for attendance of the upcoming Life and Annuity Academy is you have to hold your Athene license with IMES. So we can kill a lot of birds with one stone here on this presentation just by clicking yes. So please do participate in the poll. We appreciate everyone's participation. Mac, I did have a really good question. This is one thing I love about the Performance Elite and the allocation strategies. You mentioned getting 2-year exposure every single year with their 2-year indice exposure every single year for clients. How would you go about doing that?
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's great for a couple of reasons. I think the reason I think it's great the most is that there's a lot. If you ask other companies if you can do this, they'll give you one or two answers: either no, or we don't like when you do it. And at Athene, again, if it makes sense for the client, I'm not sure why we wouldn't offer it. So basically, what you'll do, as I mentioned before, you've got 1-year and 2-year strategies available in this product, and in fact all of our products, but we're talking about the PE here. What you would do, you would at issue, you'd sell one annuity, one Performance Elite. Let's say you have a $100,000 premium or deposit. You take half the money, $50,000. You'd select your favorite 2-year strategy. I happen to love the SocGen for how it does. Again, I'm of the belief that if you can't lose any money, why not try to hit a home run every now and then? I think SocGen will do that. So half the money goes in the SocGen 2-year. And then pick your favorite 1-year strategy. I mean, heck, you could put them in the fixed account if you wanted to for a year. You could put them in the S&P cap strategy for a year. It doesn't matter what 1-year strategy you select. What will happen is on the first anniversary, you've got 2 buckets of money. The first bucket in the 1-year strategy will need to be reallocated because that 1 year is up. Now, hopefully you have some growth to show them. The 2-year, however, is still working. We have another year to work that money, work that performance. What you'll do at that point is basically reallocate the 1-year strategy into a different 2-year bucket. You could choose the same 2-year SocGen, just it'll be in a different bucket, if you will. So what you've effectively done, starting in the second year at that first anniversary, is giving yourself staggering 2-year buckets that will return potentially something each year. So hopefully that kind of clarifies it. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we actually have a 1-page flyer that is client approved that you can show clients, and then how, again, might make sense to do that. I mean, I love the idea of 2-year strategies. I just don't love the idea about waiting 2 years for growth. This is a way to potentially show your clients, or at least take advantage of 2-year pricings each year. Does that help?
It does. Great explanation. Great sales technique. A couple things I want to piggyback off of this before we get into the next question. One, any of us that have ever been in a client-facing role, all of you on the call today, I know we would say that if we were asked, do we do 100% of our annual reviews every single year? Most of us would say, no, we don't always get them done. if you implement this strategy into your sales with Athene and the Performance Elite, this is a way to guarantee there is a purpose for that annual review. And your client is going to know about the purpose of that annual review. We've got some great tools available to you on imsinc.com in the sales resource library to help facilitate annual reviews. It's a reason to get back out there. It's a reason to sit down with the client again. And as we all know, clients that have already raised their hand and said, yes, I will do business with you, are our most likely prospects to do business again. So you never know what you're going to uncover. I would tell you strongly, implement this strategy in your practice. Utilize it. It's a great way for you to uncover new sales a year down the road, and a great way for you to help your client get the most growth potential by utilizing those 2-year strategies. Mac, I'm going to assume that this question is a Department of Labor based question. So you take that for what it's worth. Will the Performance Elite accept qualified funds?
Yes, it will. That's the simple way to answer the question. Both non-qualified and qualified funds. If you're asking that in a Department of Labor bent, obviously everyone's situation could be different depending on if you're registered, or if you're with the BD or not. That's a can of worms I'm happy to go into, but we don't have to for the purposes of this call and people's time. I think just to make people aware, though, what the reason that also could have been asked, Scott, is in terms of, can someone like put an IRA money, start an IRA? There is a $10,000 minimum premium on all of our products. It used to be, all over the map, some 5, some 25. We simplified it a couple of months ago. Every product has a $10,000 minimum. So with that in mind, though, we if you're rolling over qualified funds, absolutely, we can do that.
Absolutely. And, I'll take it even further. The PE7, PE10, PE15 are all RMD friendly. So if you want to roll funds in there, you can do it. If you haven't been working with qualified funds recently, and you need an 8424 form, Athene has one, IMS has one. We can help you with that sale and help you understand the new processes of working with qualified funds. So thank you for that answer, Mac. That being said,
Sure.
that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation. Today we're out of big wide questions. There are some questions that came in. Please don't think I'm ignoring you, but they're more individual questions. I will follow up with you individually to make sure we get those answered. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise. I will give you a shout today and we'll get through those. That being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for your time today. We do greatly appreciate it. Here at IMS, we know 45, 50 minutes with us is 45 or 50 minutes where you're not out prospecting and making sales, so we greatly appreciate it. Mac, I want to thank you. I know your time with us is very valuable to us, and I know you're very, very busy right now, so thank you for your time, sir. Any parting words for the group?
Just let me two things, Scott, if I may, and I'm kicking myself. I should have probably mentioned this during the presentation, but let me give you one more quick idea.
Sure.
Specific to the PE7 for everybody. I guess a bonus for all those folks that hung on to the end here. And I'll say thank you again. But, we talked about bond alternatives here with the PE7 in particular. Think about this. What about an equity alternative? So we know the market is continuing its unparalleled growth. Of course, I haven't checked it today. It's probably down, but we know it's been going up and up and up over the last several years. I think there's a lot of folks out there that think perhaps, the other shoe may be dropping here soon. Ultimately, are things overpriced? Where's the market going? The Fed keeps raising rates. Is it going to go backwards? So it might be a good opportunity to potentially de-risk someone's portfolio, particularly for those of you that are in AUM business. Take some of the money out of the equity position, deposit it into the PE7, and as the market potentially corrects or behaves with more volatility, you can use the liquidity, the great liquidity in the product, to dollar cost average back in over the next 7 years. So just a quick equity hedge, if you would. It's a great bond alternative, but just one more idea to share with you. And I guess with that, Scott, just again, thanks for you. Thanks for the folks at IMES, and thanks again for everyone on the phone here today, and good selling.
Hey, thank you, Mac. We, as always, do appreciate your time, appreciate your insight. And to everyone that hung on for that last sales idea, bonus. So use it. If we can help you implement it, let us know. Go out, have a great sales day, everyone. And I look forward to speaking with you all very, very soon.